There comes a time in every person's life when the noise around them fades, the crowd disappears, and the path ahead becomes painfully quiet. It is in that silence that you discover one of the most uncomfortable truths of growth. You must learn to fight alone. Not because people don't care, not because you're unworthy of help, but because the battles that shape your character were never meant to be shared. When life strips away your support, it is not abandoning you, it is training you. Strength is not built when you have someone to lean on, but when you have no option except to stand on your own feet. The world teaches you resilience by taking away your crutches. It forces you to find the courage buried deep within you, the courage you didn't even know you had. Fighting alone doesn't mean being lonely. It means becoming so solid inside yourself that solitude no longer frightens you. It means understanding that temporary isolation is often the birthplace of long-term transformation. In silence you hear your true voice. In solitude you develop the discipline that others never see, the self-belief that doesn't depend on applause, and the inner strength that no one can take from you. There will be nights when you doubt everything, your path, your purpose, your progress. There will be mornings when you wake up tired of trying, tired of being strong, tired of carrying everything by yourself. But remember, every great fighter feels this way. What separates the weak from the unstoppable is the choice to keep going even when support is gone and the world is quiet. You're not fighting alone because you're weak. You're fighting alone because you're evolving. The universe isolates you so you can hear your potential, so you can trust your own instincts, so you can grow into someone who doesn't break under pressure but rises because of it. One day, you'll look back at these lonely battles and realize they were the most important moments of your life. They didn't break you, they built you, they didn't punish you, they prepared you. And when you finally step into the future you've been working toward, you'll carry a strength that can't be shaken, a confidence that can't be stolen, and a power that came from learning how to fight alone. Growth requires moments of solitude because solitude is the quiet space where your inner world finally becomes louder than the world around you. When you are surrounded by noise, opinions, distractions, and constant demands, you rarely get the chance to ask yourself who you are becoming, what you truly want, and whether the life you are living aligns with the life you desire. Solitude strips away all external influences and leaves you face to face with your own thoughts, your doubts, your dreams, and your truth. It forces you into a space that many avoid, because silence reveals everything you've been ignoring. Yet this revelation is exactly what allows you to grow. In solitude, you begin to understand yourself without the lens of others. You stop performing for approval and start listening to your real desires. You notice your fears, not as weaknesses, but as signals that show you where courage is needed. You realize the habits that have been holding you back and the strengths that you haven't been using. You discover the goals that feel meaningful to you, not the ones you were pressured into pursuing. This kind of self-awareness cannot blossom in a crowded environment. It needs space, stillness, and time. Solitude gives you that time, the time to observe, to reflect, to reset, and to grow. There is a strength that comes from learning to enjoy your own company. When you sit alone without distractions, you begin to build an inner stability that does not depend on anyone's presence or approval. You learn to trust yourself, to rely on your own voice, to validate your own decisions. People often fear being alone because they believe solitude equals emptiness. But in reality, solitude is fullness. Fullness of clarity, of focus, of truth. When outside noise fades, your inner voice sharpens. You start to guide yourself with intention instead of drifting with the expectations of others. Solitude is also where discipline is born. When no one watches you, you choose who you want to be. You push yourself, or you allow yourself to slip. You stay committed, or you give up. This private space reveals your true character, and with this honesty comes growth. You learn to confront your weaknesses instead of running from them. You learn to build new habits without needing praise. You learn to take responsibility for your mind, your actions, and your future. These are the foundations of a strong, self-driven life. But perhaps the most powerful aspect of solitude is that it reconnects you to your purpose. Life becomes clearer when you remove the world's static. You begin to recognize what matters, what drains you, what inspires you, and what needs to change. You realize that growth is not something that happens to you. It's something you choose. And that choice becomes easier when you're alone with your truth, free from pressure, free from comparison, free from noise. Solitude becomes the soil where self-discovery, confidence, and transformation take root. It becomes the silent space where you stop being who you were and begin becoming who you were meant to be. Isolation is often training because it places you in an environment where comfort no longer shields you from your own potential. When you are alone, there is no one to carry your weight, no one to distract you from your weaknesses, and no one to soften the lessons you need to learn. Isolation exposes the raw truth of who you are at your core, your habits, your fears, your desires, your resilience. It becomes a kind of spiritual gym, a mental battleground where your strength is shaped. Without the noise and support of the world, you are forced to confront the parts of yourself that are easy to ignore when surrounded by people. In that confrontation, something powerful happens. You start to transform. Being isolated teaches you how to rely on yourself in a way that no other experience can. You learn that you are capable of handling more than you thought. You learn that independence is not loneliness but empowerment. You discover resourcefulness, creativity, and inner courage that only emerge when no one else is available to guide or comfort you. This training builds a kind of emotional and mental endurance that becomes the foundation of true self-mastery. You stop waiting for someone to save you or motivate you, and you start learning how to push forward because you must, not because someone is watching. Isolation also reveals your internal voice. When the world quiets down, your intuition becomes sharper. You begin to hear the thoughts that whisper instead of shout, the ones drowned out by distraction and noise. These thoughts guide you toward what you really want, not what others expect from you. In this clarity, you begin to understand your purpose and direction on a deeper level. You learn which battles are worth fighting, which dreams are worth chasing, and which habits you must break to grow. This inner guidance system becomes stronger every time you sit alone with yourself and listen without fear. Isolation also conditions you to handle pressure. When you stand alone, you learn to make decisions independently, face consequences without excuses, and solve problems without relying on external help. This strengthens your willpower and upgrades your resilience. You start developing a quiet confidence that comes from surviving your own storms. You become less reactive, more intentional, and far more grounded. The world can throw challenges at you, but once you've trained in isolation, those challenges no longer feel threatening. They feel familiar, manageable, even necessary. And over time, isolation helps you separate temporary loneliness from long-term strength. Many people fear being alone because they focus on the emptiness. But in reality, the emptiness is the training ground where greatness is built. It teaches you patience, discipline, self-respect, and emotional independence. It teaches you how to stand firm when others walk away and how to move forward even in silence. Isolation becomes a forging fire that purifies your character, forcing you to grow into someone who is not just surviving life but shaping it with intention and inner power. Fighting alone develops self-belief because it forces you to discover what you're truly capable of without leaning on anyone else to validate, support, or guide you. When you stand alone in a challenge, you become the only source of strength you can depend on, and that pressure awakens abilities you never knew you had. In those moments when no one is there to reassure you, you learn to reassure yourself. When no one is there to applaud you, you learn to recognize your own progress. When no one is there to tell you what to do next, you learn to trust your own judgment. These experiences create a deep, unshakable confidence, a belief in yourself that comes from evidence, not hope. Being alone in your battles makes you realize that self-belief isn't something someone else can give you. It's something built through actions, through persistence, through surviving situations you once feared. When you push through a difficult moment without help, a quiet voice inside you says, "I did that." That voice becomes stronger each time you fight through another setback. Eventually it becomes a part of your identity. You stop doubting your ability to handle life because you've proved it to yourself repeatedly. Self-belief grows not from comfort but from challenge, not from support but from solitude. Fighting alone also teaches you to rely on your own mind. You learn to think for yourself, make decisions under pressure, and take responsibility for the outcome. Instead of waiting for advice or approval, you start depending on your inner wisdom. This strengthens your mental independence. You realize that even if the world goes silent, your mind can guide you. Your instincts sharpen, your judgment improves, and you begin to trust your own voice more than the noise outside. Self-belief is built when your inner voice becomes louder than your doubts. When you fight alone, you also discover your emotional strength. You learn how to calm your fears, how to steady your anxiety, how to keep going even when you feel overwhelmed. You stop abandoning yourself in moments of weakness. You learn to be your own support system. This emotional courage becomes the foundation of self-belief, because you know you can survive your own storms. You know you can hold yourself together even when everything falls apart. And once you've learned that, no disappointment or rejection can take that confidence away from you. You also begin to understand your value differently. When you accomplish something without anyone's help, you feel a sense of pride that no external praise could ever match. You realize that your strength doesn't depend on recognition. It depends on effort, persistence, and the refusal to quit. This realization rewires your self-perception. You stop seeing yourself as someone who needs saving. You begin seeing yourself as someone who can save themselves. Ultimately, fighting alone reshapes your identity from the inside out. It forces you to step out of dependence and step into your own power. And once you've felt that power, once you've seen what you can overcome without anyone holding your hand, you develop a self-belief so strong that the world can no longer shake it. Doubt and exhaustion are natural because they are signs that you are pushing yourself into territory you've never been in before. When you strive for something greater, whether it's a dream, a transformation, or a new version of yourself, you inevitably face moments where your energy feels drained and your confidence wavers. These moments don't mean you're weak or unworthy. They mean you are human. Every person who has ever grown, achieved, or risen above their old self has felt the weight of uncertainty and the heaviness of fatigue. These feelings are not obstacles meant to stop you. They are indicators that you're moving beyond your comfort zone. When you start something difficult, it's easy to feel inspired at first. But as time passes, discipline replaces excitement, and effort replaces motivation. That's when doubt creeps in. You begin questioning your direction, your ability, and whether the journey is even worth it. This internal conflict is normal because the mind resists change. It prefers the familiar, the predictable, the safe. So when you start breaking old patterns or chasing something higher, your mind sends signals of fear disguised as doubt. But doubt is not a sign to quit. It's a sign to continue. It's the mind adjusting to the new level you're demanding from it. Exhaustion, too, is a natural part of growth. When you pour energy into your goals, when you carry responsibilities that no one sees, when you wake up each day and choose to try again, your body and spirit feel the strain. Exhaustion doesn't mean you're failing. It means you're investing. It means you're evolving. Anything meaningful requires effort, and effort naturally creates fatigue. The important thing is to understand that exhaustion is temporary, but the strength it builds is permanent. You don't grow by avoiding tiredness. You grow by learning how to move through it with grace and persistence. There will be days when you feel like you're giving everything but seeing nothing in return. Days when you doubt the path, doubt your progress, and doubt yourself. These are the moments that test your endurance. Growth isn't measured by how strong you are when everything is going well. It's measured by how committed you remain when everything feels heavy. If you can show up even when you're tired, even when you're unsure, even when things feel slow, you develop a resilience that few people possess. Doubt and exhaustion often appear right before breakthroughs. They show up when you're closer to change than you realize. When your old self starts to fade and your new self begins to take shape, the process feels uncomfortable. Your mind clings to familiarity and your body feels the weight of transformation. But if you push through these moments, you discover a version of yourself that is stronger, clearer, and more capable. Han, the one who started the journey. Feeling doubt doesn't make you incapable. Feeling exhausted doesn't make you weak. These experiences simply mean you are alive, striving and stretching into a better version of yourself. They are natural parts of growing, and the presence of these feelings is evidence that you are moving in the right direction. The universe removes support intentionally because there are stages in your life where relying on others would keep you small, dependent or comfortable when you are meant to grow into someone stronger. When everything seems to fall apart at the same time, people drifting away, plans collapsing, familiar paths closing, it often feels like punishment. But in reality, it is redirection. The universe takes away what you cling to so you can discover what you're truly capable of without it. Support is comforting, but it can also limit you. When you are constantly guided, protected, or encouraged by others, you never fully learn the depth of your own strength. Removing that support forces you into a space where you must trust yourself, believe in yourself, and lead yourself. It's a push toward independence that you might never choose willingly, but desperately need. When people leave your life unexpectedly, it can feel like betrayal. Yet sometimes the universe removes them because their presence would interfere with your evolution. Not everyone is meant to walk with you into your next chapter. Some relationships keep you tied to old habits, old fears, and old versions of yourself. To grow into something greater, you must often be separated from what keeps you comfortable. Solitude becomes the path to clarity, distance becomes the path to strength, and loss becomes the path to renewal. The universe knows the weight you can carry and removes people or circumstances that would slow you down in the long run. At first it feels like abandonment, but later you realize it was protection. The universe also removes support to awaken your inner power. When everything external is taken away, you are forced to look inward. You begin discovering resources within yourself, courage, resilience, intuition, creativity, that you never needed to explore before. In the absence of help, your internal voice grows louder. You start making decisions based on your own understanding rather than leaning on the opinions of others. You begin to trust your instincts, rely on your judgment, and embrace the responsibility of shaping your own life. This inner awakening can only happen when external support disappears. Oftentimes, the universe removes support because you're being prepared for a bigger role, a bigger responsibility, or a bigger destiny. To handle what's coming, you must first be strengthened. And strength is rarely born in comfort. It is forged during the moments when you feel you have no one but yourself. It's in those moments that you learn discipline, patience, persistence, and emotional endurance. These are qualities that can only be built through challenge. Support would soften the lesson, but you are meant to rise, not remain dependent. And sometimes support is taken away simply to change your direction. When you stay attached to the wrong person, the wrong environment, or the wrong goal, the universe intervenes by removing what keeps you stuck. It forces you to move, to rethink, to grow. You may not see it immediately, but eventually you understand that the universe wasn't taking from you, it was clearing space for something better. Your lonely battles become your greatest victories because the strength gained in solitude is unlike anything that comes from external support or applause. When you face challenges alone, without reassurance, without guidance, without anyone to pick you up, you are confronted with the rawest version of yourself. These are the moments that test your inner resilience, your discipline, your patience, and your belief in your own ability to survive. And when you push through, even if slowly, even if painfully, you create a kind of strength that stays with you for life. A victory earned in isolation becomes a permanent part of your character, because no one can claim it, no one can take it, and no one can diminish it. Lonely battles shape you because they strip away everything that is not essential. Without an audience to impress or people to depend on, you learn what truly drives you. You learn how deeply you are willing to commit to your goals. You learn that your determination is stronger than your fear. Every time you choose to keep going when no one is watching, you build integrity. Every time you push forward without encouragement, you build self-respect. These invisible victories matter more than the visible ones, because they develop an inner foundation that cannot be shaken by external circumstances. The victories that come from lonely battles are also powerful because they teach you who you really are. When you are alone in the struggle, you have to meet your doubts head-on. You have to face your weaknesses without hiding. You have to confront your habits, your thought patterns, your excuses. This self-confrontation is uncomfortable, but it is transformative. And when you overcome these internal obstacles, the victory is far deeper than simply achieving a goal. It is the victory of becoming a different version of yourself. You come out of the battle with a clearer sense of identity and a stronger sense of self-worth. Lonely battles also reveal your strength at a level that support never could. When someone helps you, you may reach the finish line faster, but you also miss the opportunity to witness your own power. When you walk the path alone, you see exactly what you can endure. You witness your own progress. You learn that your mind can stay steady even when everything feels uncertain. You discover that your spirit is far stronger than you imagined. And that revelation becomes one of the greatest victories of all, knowing that you are capable, not because someone told you, but because you experienced it. These victories also last longer because they are rooted in personal evolution, not external validation. When you accomplish something alone, the pride you feel is quiet but profound. It is not based on recognition, it is based on truth. It becomes a memory you carry into every future challenge, a reminder that you have already survived worse, already conquered setbacks, already risen from moments of doubt and fatigue. These quiet victories become the foundation of your confidence, reminding you that you can stand, you can fight, and you can win, even in the darkest and loneliest chapters of your life. In the end, every moment you stood alone, every night you questioned yourself, every silent battle you fought when no one else even knew you were struggling, those are the moments that shaped you. Those are the moments that carved strength into your bones and courage into your spirit. You didn't grow because life was easy. You grew because you refused to break when everything tried to weaken you. And now you stand not as someone who was rescued, but as someone who rescued themselves. You stand as proof that solitude does not destroy the strong, it creates them. That isolation is not punishment, it is preparation. That your darkest chapters do not end you, they awaken you. So walk forward with your head high. Carry the strength that was forged in silence. Trust the wisdom you earned through struggle. And remember this, you are no longer the person who needed saving. You are the person who can survive anything. You are the warrior born from the battles no one else saw. And the world has no choice now but to rise to meet the strength you've built alone.